So back in around 2017, like right in the middle of my first year of college, my parents cut me off. I was told to find an apartment and pay for it myself. I was shocked since I had no money or credit and I had to find something that a full-time college student could afford. I literally almost gave up until I found a place on the FAU off-campus housing website. When I walked in, the entire apartment was disgusting. The stove had this grime that looked like it had been growing there for months. The sink was filled to the brim with dirty dishes, and the trash was completely overflowing. When I went to see the bathroom, I noticed the shower floor was covered in gunk and the entire place smelled awful. As I toured the house, I realized I would be sharing a room with some random dude in the master bedroom. My bed, you ask, was just a mattress on the floor. This random dude, let's call him Smeg, told me last minute I owed him a security deposit of $1,000. Let me just pull $1,000 out of my piggy bank. This place was an absolute nightmare. But given that I was out of time and options, I had no choice but to sign the lease. As soon as I moved in, I took it upon myself to try and clean the place as best as possible. If I was going to be living there for the next couple months, I might as well try and make it livable. So Smeg listed the apartment because his friend graduated and took off. He put 2 rooms up for rent. One, which was the one I had to share with him, and another, which was the private room. After a week of me living there, Smeg told me that he might have to raise my rent because he couldn't find anyone to take the other room. I was furious because I could barely afford the room I was in. So I went into the room to see what was wrong with it, and as soon as I went inside, I immediately knew what was wrong. For starters, the toilet was covered in shit, and I mean the inside was almost totally tinted brown. The sink had gunk all over it, and you could barely see a clear reflection in the mirror due to the buildup of grime and dust. At first I thought the tiles on the floor were painted, but a closer look revealed it was just filthy. I took one look at the bathtub, and all I could see was this almost perfect gray ring on the inside. The bedroom itself was not much better. There was trash all over the floor and large amounts of dust everywhere you laid eyes on. After gazing upon this disaster, I turned to Smeg and said, "This room is disgusting. No wonder no one is renting it out. Why didn't you make sure it was clean?" To which he responded, "I figured whoever moved in would just clean it themselves." I laughed in horror. I told him that no one wants to move into a new house, only to have to clean it and fix it up themselves. If he was planning on charging them extra, especially. He seemed genuinely surprised when I told him this. I told Smeg that the only way he was going to have anyone rent this shithole is if we clean it ourselves. Cleaning took hours. I had to get on my hands and knees to clean the grime out of the bathtub, and I swear I breathed in like an entire gallon of bleach. In the middle of our cleaning project, I decided to ask Smeg why he never really bothered to clean anything. The reply he gave me was, "Cleaning is usually a woman's job." After we'd cleaned the place, Smeg took new pictures of the room that were much nicer, and not even a week later, we had someone moving in. It was all rainbows and sunshine until the person moving in had a cat, which I was allergic to, which Smeg knew. That cat later pissed in one of my suitcases and it had to be thrown out. So living with Smeg was an absolute nightmare from beginning to end. He was disgusting and inconsiderate, and this was the last straw. I was tired of cleaning up after him and putting up with shit. I told him I wanted to break the lease and leave, and that I wanted my security deposit back, because that's a lot of money. He didn't plan on giving it back. Now, by this point, I'd done my research on how to break a lease early, and I found out that unfit living conditions was one of them. Smeg definitely fit under that criteria. I was legally allowed my full security deposit back. When I finally moved out, getting my security deposit back was just another disaster. It was constant excuses as to why he didn't have the money, and I tried to argue against this and told him that we had agreed I would get my security deposit back. But since I was no longer living there, I had no way of getting it back. I later learned that the security deposit had already been paid, and those $1,000 he basically kept to himself. So I asked my stepdad to get his lawyer involved, which scared him a bit, but he still refused to give me back my money in full. In the end, given it was such a small amount, it was just not worth taking to small claims court, so I had to let him walk away with like almost half of the $1,000 I originally paid. So the lesson learned, don't move in with strangers, and if you have to, make sure you have some sort of interview that gives you an insight as to their lifestyle and cleanliness before you make a really expensive mistake.